Contra the Alien Wars is a side-scrolling run-and-gun game developed by Factor 5 and released by Konami for the Game Boy in 1994. The game follows the events of Contra III on the Super Nintendo, but is obviously scaled back for the weaker hardware. The first thing you'll notice when playing Contra the Alien Wars is the pace. Everything moves somewhat sluggish. I suspect part of this is because of the original Game Boy screen, which didn't have a particularly high refresh rate. However, the somewhat sluggish speed works in the game's favor and helps offset any screen crunch issues the game might otherwise have had. Sluggish pace aside, Contra the Alien Wars is a fairly standard action game. Set in the future with an invading alien race, you control Jimbo and Sully who must defend Earth. There isn't much of a plot, nor should there be, but I enjoy how the game captures 80s sci-fi rather than an 80s action hero film. After making your way through the first stage and beating the first boss, Alien Wars switches things up with a top-down level. The goal here is to defeat all of the enemies on the map and then take out the boss. The game then alternates for just 5 levels before reaching its conclusion. The controls in Contra the Alien Wars are responsive, if not a touch stiff. Changing directions and shooting happens quickly enough, but something about the controls feels rigid rather than fluid. This is most obvious with the jumping, with the jump arc lacking much horizontal momentum. Gunning down aliens, on the other hand, is much more satisfying. Your machine gun is quite flexible and can shoot in all 8 directions. You can also pick up new weapon upgrades, giving you a spread shot, homing bullets, a flamethrower, and more. Dying, however, will set you back to the standard machine gun. Despite being a simple game with just 5 levels, I've actually put a ton of time into this little Game Boy game. The game is somewhat tough at first, and I died frequently. After learning all of the enemy patterns, getting used to the jumping, and learning which weapon to hold and which to pass on, the game becomes fairly easy, but I found the journey to this point to be quite tough. The bosses, on the other hand, are somewhat sloppy. This giant turtle on stage 1 should be fairly simple. Avoid the head by jumping on platforms and shoot the weak spot on the belly. Yet this is easier said than done, and dodging the head feels all but impossible. Same goes for the first boss of the final stage. It's not terribly clear how to avoid the boss's attack, or even how to hit him. The overhead bosses are even more obnoxious, taking far too long to finally take down, especially with the stock weapon. Contra the Alien Wars does have some bright spots, however. Mid-bosses tend to be far more enjoyable, with patterns that make sense and specific strategies working consistently once you figure them out. While Contra's gameplay is a mixed bag, the graphics and audio are consistently high. The soundtrack is wonderful, with very weighty, eerie, mature compositions capturing the post-apocalyptic future quite well. It never ceases to amaze me what sound producers were able to get out of the Game Boy hardware, and Contra the Alien Wars does not disappoint. The graphics are the real high point, however. Factor 5 did a stunning job in every way. The characters and enemies all look terrific, with well-defined features. The 5 environments all look great as well, though the backgrounds are definitely sparse. Still, this is a good compromise. More impressive is how Contra the Alien Wars takes advantage of the Super Game Boy. While they didn't create a custom border, each of the 5 stages does feature a custom color palette, which further enhances the variety. They didn't stop there, and many sections of the game feature more than 4 colors, and I absolutely love it when developers really push the hardware like this. Overall, Contra the Alien Wars is a solid action title. I'm not crazy about the jumping, the rigid controls, and the bosses are often less than satisfying, but this Game Boy title still manages to be a lot of fun. The actual running and gunning is enjoyable, and the sweet graphics are the icing on the cake. 3 out of 5.